She filed for divorce. Smiling, then discovered her ex-husband secretly owned the company that fired her. The wine sparkled beneath the chandelier as cruel laughter filled the room. The kind that celebrates destruction instead of joy. Samantha raised her glass, smiling like she had already won. "I'm happy to announce," she said, voice sharp with pride, "that I'm divorcing this man." Cheers exploded around her. Applause. Laughter. Nathan didn't argue. He didn't beg. He didn't explain. He stood, buttoned his coat, and walked into the falling snow without a word. No one followed him. No one noticed the silence he left behind. What they didn't know, what Samantha would soon learn, was that the man she humiliated had quietly built the company that would destroy her career. Viewers, tell me this. What kind of man walks away smiling when he already owns the ending? Morning light slipped through the glass walls of the apartment, pale and quiet, touching the edges of furniture that had once felt like a promise. Samantha stood barefoot in front of the mirror, adjusting her earrings with practiced precision. Her lips curved into a smile that belonged more to ambition than happiness. The reflection looking back at her was polished, confident, and already somewhere else, far ahead of the life she shared with her husband. Behind her, Nathan sat at the small dining table, sleeves rolled up, laptop open, coffee untouched. Numbers moved across his screen in calm rows, graphs rising and falling like steady breathing. He worked early every morning, always before the city fully woke up, always without noise. Samantha used to admire that about him. Now, it irritated her. "You're going to be late again," she said, not turning around. Nathan glanced at his watch. "I'll drive you. It won't take long." She scoffed lightly, finally meeting his eyes in the mirror. "I don't need you rearranging your spreadsheets for me." "They're not just spreadsheets," he replied evenly, closing the laptop anyway. That tone, calm, measured, never defensive, made her feel small in a way she hated. Samantha grabbed her handbag and walked past him, heels clicking sharply against the floor, as if each step were punctuation in an argument. She had already finished in her head. The elevator ride down was silent. The city outside buzzed with movement and opportunity. Glass towers reflecting the kind of life Samantha believed she deserved. When Nathan dropped her off in front of the corporate building, she barely waited for the car to stop before stepping out. "Don't wait," she said. "I'll be late." He nodded. "Have a good day." She didn't answer. Inside the building, Samantha transformed. The smile returned, sharper now, more deliberate. She greeted coworkers, laughed at jokes, and walked with the confidence of someone who believed the world was finally beginning to notice her. She had earned her place here, she told herself. She had climbed fast. And today mattered. The conference room buzzed with energy as executives gathered around the long glass table. The company logo gleamed on the wall behind them, bold and modern. Samantha took a seat, smoothing her skirt, heart beating faster with expectation. The director entered last, carrying a thin folder. "Let's get started," he said. Presentations moved quickly. Numbers, forecasts, applause. Samantha listened, waiting for her moment, already imagining the title she believed was hers. When the director finally spoke her name, she sat up straighter. "Samantha," he said, clearing his throat, "this won't take long." The room felt suddenly colder. "We've decided to restructure," he continued. "After careful review, your role has been eliminated." The words landed softly, almost politely, but they crushed everything beneath them. "I don't understand," Samantha said, laughing once, sure this was a mistake. "My performance reviews are excellent," he interrupted gently. "This isn't about performance. It's a strategic decision from ownership." Ownership. Her smile faltered. Since when does ownership get involved in middle management decisions? The director hesitated. Just long enough. "I'm sorry," he said. "Security will help you collect your things." The meeting ended without her. Conversations resumed as if she had never been there. Samantha stood slowly, the room spinning as humiliation burned her throat. She walked out with her head high, refusing to cry. refusing to let anyone see the crack forming beneath her carefully built image. By the time she reached the parking garage, her hands were shaking. Nathan's name flashed on her phone. She ignored it. That evening, she came home late, anger sharpening every thought. Nathan was in the kitchen, cooking quietly, sleeves rolled up, the smell of garlic and herbs filling the air. "They fired me," she said flatly, tossing her bag onto the couch. He turned, concern immediate. "What? Why?" "They said restructuring," she snapped, which is corporate language for betrayal. Nathan stepped closer. "We'll figure it out. You'll land somewhere better." That calm again. That patience. Something inside her snapped. "No," she said coldly. "I'm done figuring things out with you." He froze. "What does that mean?" "It means I'm tired," she said, crossing her arms. "Tired of carrying us. Tired of being married to potential instead of success." Nathan searched her face, trying to understand when the woman he loved had begun to look at him like a burden. "I've supported you," he said quietly. "With what?" She laughed. "Your silence. Your mysterious little projects. I need a partner who moves forward, not someone hiding behind a laptop." The words felt good as she said them. Powerful. Clean. That night, she slept peacefully for the first time in weeks. 2 days later, Samantha sat in a lawyer's office. Legs crossed, posture relaxed, lips curved in that same confident smile. She signed the papers without hesitation, the pen gliding smoothly across the page. Divorce felt like freedom. Nathan didn't argue. He didn't plead. He simply signed where he was told, his expression unreadable, his hand steady. As they stood to leave, Samantha looked at him once, really looked, and smiled wider. "This is for the best," she said. Nathan met her eyes, calm as ever. "If you say so." She walked out first, heels echoing down the hallway, unaware that somewhere far above both of them, decisions were already in motion. Decisions tied to a company she thought she understood, and a man she never truly knew. Samantha woke to silence that felt earned. The apartment was hers now, or at least it felt that way. Nathan's side of the bed was untouched, the pillow smooth, the air lighter without his quiet presence occupying it. She stretched, smiling to herself, already rehearsing how she would explain the divorce to friends. Not as a failure, but as a strategic move, a bold decision made by a woman who knew her worth. By noon, reality began to intrude. Her phone buzzed with polite rejection emails, each one carefully worded. Each one reminding her that senior roles were scarce and competition was fierce. She refreshed her inbox again and again, irritation replacing confidence. It had only been a few days, she told herself. Big careers didn't collapse overnight. In the afternoon, she met her friend Lauren for coffee at a sleek cafe filled with exposed brick and quiet ambition. Samantha spoke quickly, confidently, spinning the story with practiced ease. "I needed a reset," she said, stirring her drink. "The job, the marriage, it was all holding me back." Lauren nodded, but her eyes lingered too long. "Still, being let go so suddenly, that's rough." "It wasn't personal," Samantha replied sharply. "Just restructuring." Lauren hesitated. "You heard about Ardent Group, right?" Samantha frowned. "What about them?" "They acquired controlling interest in your company last quarter. Quiet deal. New ownership, new priorities." Samantha's hand stilled. "Ardent Group? That doesn't make sense. They are private. No one even knows who runs them." Lauren shrugged. "Exactly." The words followed Samantha home, whispering in her head as she paced the apartment that evening. She pulled up news articles, investor blogs, obscure business forums, searching for anything concrete. Ardent Group appeared everywhere and nowhere at once. Capital injections, strategic buyouts, board reshuffles, but no interviews. No public face, no CEO spotlight. It unsettled her. Across the city, in a glass-walled office high above the noise, Nathan stood alone, staring out at the skyline. The office was minimalist, clean, deliberately impersonal. A nameplate sat on the desk behind him, turned face down. A man in a tailored suit entered quietly. The termination process went smoothly. Nathan nodded. Good. She didn't suspect. No, Nathan's voice was steady, but his reflection in the glass looked older than before. She doesn't need to. The man hesitated. Do you want to reverse it? We can offer a severance package beyond. No, Nathan said calmly. Business decisions should remain business decisions. When the man left, Nathan finally exhaled, the weight of months pressing down on him. He hadn't planned for things to end this way. He had only planned to stay invisible. Back in the apartment, Samantha's confidence cracked further the next morning when her phone rang. Ms. Carter, a polite voice said, this is HR from your former company. There seems to be an issue with your access credentials. I no longer work there, Samantha said impatiently. Yes, the voice replied carefully, but per ownership request. We need confirmation that you've returned all proprietary materials. Ownership request. Samantha repeated. Yes, they're very thorough. The call ended, leaving her staring at the wall. Ownership. Again. Later that week, Samantha finally landed an interview, an upper management role at a rival firm. She dressed carefully, every detail chosen to project control. The interview went well until the final question. Are you familiar with Ardent Group? The interviewer asked casually. Samantha forced a smile. Of course. Good, he said. They're our largest silent partner. Final approvals come from them. The room seemed to tilt. The interview ended politely. So did her chances. By the end of the week, the pattern was undeniable. Opportunities opened, then quietly closed. Conversations shifted. Promises evaporated. Everywhere she went, the same invisible wall rose in front of her. Smooth and impenetrable. Frustrated and restless, Samantha attended a high-profile networking event, the kind filled with investors, founders, and people who spoke about success as if it were contagious. She laughed loudly, exchanged cards, leaned into conversations with practiced charm. Then she overheard it. Two men stood near the bar, voices low but careless. Ardent Group doesn't miss, one said. Their owner's a ghost, but when they move, companies listen. The other chuckled. Whoever he is, he plays long games. Samantha's chest tightened. Owner. Singular. Later that night, alone in her car, she sat gripping the steering wheel. City lights blurring through the windshield. For the first time since signing the divorce papers, doubt crept in, not about her decision, but about her understanding of the world she thought she controlled. She thought of Nathan. His quiet mornings, his unreadable calm, the way he never reacted when she mocked his work, his silence, his patience. She shook her head, annoyed at herself. He was nothing, she reminded herself. Just a man she outgrew. And yet, somewhere deep beneath the certainty she clung to, a question formed, unwelcome and persistent. What if she hadn't walked away from weakness? What if she had walked away from power she never bothered to see? The first time Samantha saw his name, it appeared where she least expected it, buried in fine print, hidden between legal language and corporate formalities, as if it were never meant to be noticed by someone like her. She was sitting in a downtown co-working space, laptop open, documents scattered across the table, chasing freelance consulting work she once would have dismissed as beneath her. The room buzzed with muted ambition. Keyboards clicking, espresso machines hissing, everyone pretending they were exactly where they wanted to be. A contract slid across her screen, sent by a mid-sized firm eager for her experience but hesitant, overly cautious. She scrolled past compensation, deliverables, timelines, until her eyes caught a clause that made her pause. Final approval subject to review by controlling entity, Ardent Group Holdings. Authorized signatory, N. Hale. Her breath caught. N. Hale. The name stirred something distant and uncomfortable. She stared at it longer than necessary, the letters rearranging themselves in her mind until a memory surfaced, an old package, once delivered to their apartment, addressed not to Nathan, but to N. Hale. She had laughed about it then, joking that he must be hiding a secret identity. He had smiled and said nothing. Her fingers hovered over the trackpad as unease spread slowly through her chest. N. Hale. Nathan. Hale. The coincidence was absurd. She told herself. Hale was a common name. Nathan was common. This was nothing. Still, she opened a new tab. Search results were thin, intentionally so. Ardent Group Holdings remained a sealed entity. Layers of shell companies protecting its leadership. But there it was again, on a regulatory filing from years ago. Archived and forgotten by most. Nathaniel Hale. Founding investor. The room seemed to fade around her. No, she whispered, closing the laptop too quickly, as if the screen itself had accused her of something. She stood abruptly, chair scraping the floor, earning a few annoyed glances. She didn't care. Outside, the city air felt heavier. Traffic moved slowly, horns blaring, people crossing streets with purpose. Samantha walked without direction, the rhythm of her heels sharp against the pavement, her thoughts spiraling. It couldn't be him. Nathan barely spoke about work. He wore the same simple clothes, drove an old car, cooked at home, avoided attention like it was a disease. He had never taken calls late at night, never traveled unexpectedly, never flaunted wealth. But then again, he had never struggled. Rent was always paid. Bills were handled quietly. Emergencies never caused panic. When she lost a client years ago, he had simply said, "Take your time. We are fine. We are fine." The words echoed now with a different weight. Samantha stopped walking and leaned against a building, her reflection staring back at her from the dark glass. For the first time in years, she looked uncertain. Stripped of the armor she wore so easily. Her phone buzzed. A notification from her bank. Account access limited pending review. What? She muttered, opening the app. Her balance still showed, but several linked privileges were frozen. She called immediately, pacing as the phone rang. "Ms. Carter," the representative said politely. "We've received notice of changes in authorized access related to a shared financial structure." Shared with who? Samantha demanded. There was a pause. Mr. Nathaniel Hale. Her legs felt weak. She lowered herself onto a nearby bench as the city rushed on around her. Indifferent to the moment her world tilted. "That's not possible," she said. "We are divorced." "Yes," the representative replied. "But certain accounts predate the marriage and remain under his ownership. Your access was extended voluntarily and has now been withdrawn." Voluntarily. Samantha ended the call, hands trembling. Pieces began to align, sharp and unforgiving. His refusal to argue during the divorce. His calm. His silence. His complete lack of reaction when she called him a loser. He hadn't been powerless. He had been patient. That evening, she returned to the apartment and opened drawers she had never bothered to inspect before. Old files. Documents. A locked box she had assumed held nothing important. She broke it open with shaking hands. Inside were neatly organized folders. Legal structures. Trust agreements. Corporate registrations. Ardent Group Holdings. Her vision blurred as she flipped through page after page, each one confirming what she had refused to see. Nathan was not just involved. He was the majority owner, the architect, the man behind the ghost. A photo slipped out, falling to the floor. It showed Nathan years earlier, standing in front of a modest office, arm around two other men, all of them smiling. On the back, in his handwriting, were the words, "Built in silence, protected by patience." Samantha sank to the floor, the weight of realization pressing down on her, chest until breathing became difficult. Memories replayed themselves differently now, every late morning, every quiet refusal to explain. Every time he chose peace over pride, she had mistaken restraint for weakness. Her phone buzzed again. A single message. Unknown number. "Nathan, I hope you're well," that was all. No accusation. No explanation. No triumph, just the calm certainty of a man who had never needed her to know, until now. Samantha stared at the screen. The apartment suddenly feeling too large, too empty, too honest for the first time since she raised that champagne glass and smiled through betrayal. Fear replaced satisfaction, because she finally understood the truth. The man she humiliated didn't just walk away with dignity. He walked away with everything. Samantha did not sleep that night. The city outside her window pulsed with life. headlights sliding across the ceiling like restless thoughts she could not quiet. Every time she closed her eyes, the image returned, Nathan's calm face, unchanged, unbothered, as if he had always been standing on higher ground while she shouted from below, unaware of the distance between them. By morning, pride gave way to urgency. She dressed carefully, not with the sharp confidence she once favored, but with something softer, calculated in a different way. The mirror reflected a woman, trying to regain control of a story that had already been written without her consent. She drove across the city to the Ardent Group headquarters, a building so understated it bordered on invisible. No flashy logo, no towering sign, just glass, steel, and quiet authority. She had passed it countless times without noticing, never realizing that the most powerful structures rarely announce themselves. Inside, the lobby was calm, almost serene. A receptionist looked up, professional and polite. "I need to see Nathan Hale," Samantha said, steadying her voice. The receptionist didn't blink. "Do you have an appointment?" "No," Samantha replied. "But he'll see me." The woman paused, then typed something into her computer. Her eyes flicked back to Samantha with mild curiosity, not recognition. "I'll inform him you're here." Samantha waited, each second stretching. Executives passed through the lobby, conversations low, purposeful. None of them spared her more than a glance. She was just another visitor now. Not an insider. Not special. At last, the elevator doors opened. "Ms. Carter," the receptionist said. "He'll see you." The ride-up felt longer than it should have. When the doors opened, Samantha stepped into a space that was nothing like she expected. No extravagant office. No symbols of dominance. Just a clean, open room with floor-to-ceiling windows and a single desk facing the skyline. Nathan stood by the window, hands in his pockets, looking out over the city as if it belonged to him, not because he claimed it, but because he understood how it worked. He turned slowly. "Samantha," he said, as if greeting an old acquaintance rather than the woman who had publicly erased him. "You came." She swallowed. "You knew I would." "Yes," he replied simply. "Eventually." The word stung. "You fired me," she said, the accusation sharp but fragile. Nathan didn't flinch. "No. The company restructured. I didn't interfere." Her laugh was bitter. "Don't insult me. Every door I touch closes. Every opportunity disappears. This isn't coincidence." He walked to his desk and sat, folding his hands calmly. "You asked for separation, professionally and personally. I respected that." "That's not respect," she snapped. "That's punishment." Nathan stuttered her quietly, the same way he used to listen when she vented about work, when she never once asked about his day. "You called me a loser," he said softly. "You smiled when you said it." The memory hit her harder than she expected. The laughter, the champagne, the ease with which she had erased years of shared life. "I was angry," she said, voice lowering. "I had just lost my job." "You lost your job," he replied, "after you lost your respect." Silence filled the room, heavy and unyielding. "What do you want?" Samantha asked finally. Nathan leaned back slightly. "Nothing." "That's not true." "It is," he said. "I didn't build Arden to control people. I built it to protect what I value." "And what is that?" She demanded. He looked at her then. Really looked, not with anger, but with something quieter and far more devastating. "Peace," he said. Samantha's composure cracked. "You could help me," she said, the words slipping out before pride could stop them. "One call. One approval. You owe me that much." Nathan stood again, moving to the window. "I don't owe you power," he said calmly. "I gave you trust. You traded it for applause." Her eyes burned. "So this is revenge?" "No," he replied. "This is consequence." She stepped closer, desperation creeping into her voice. "I didn't know who you were." "That was the point," Nathan said. "I wanted to be loved without leverage." The words settled between them, heavy with truth. Outside, the city continued on, indifferent to the private reckoning unfolding above it. Samantha realized then that nothing she said would change the past. She could not undo the smile she wore when she filed for divorce. She could not reclaim the respect she threw away so easily. Nathan turned back to her, expression composed. "You're free," he said. "Free to rebuild. Just not with my shadow protecting you." Her shoulders slumped, defeat seeping into every line of her posture. As she turned to leave, Nathan spoke once more. "I hope you succeed," he said. "On your own." The elevator doors closed behind her, and for the first time, Samantha understood the cost of mistaking silence for weakness. Samantha walked out of the ardent building into a city that no longer felt welcoming. The air was the same, the streets unchanged. But everything looked different now, sharper, less forgiving. She stood for a moment on the sidewalk, clutching her handbag as people moved around her, each of them absorbed in their own lives, unaware that hers had just been stripped down to its bare frame. She had expected anger. She had prepared herself for humiliation. What she had not prepared for was the quiet finality of it all. Days passed without ceremony. The apartment felt too large and too honest. Without Nathan's quiet routines anchoring the space, time stretched awkwardly. Mornings had no structure. Nights arrived without comfort. She sent out applications again, carefully tailored, humbler than before. Some went unanswered. Others ended politely, always with the same tone of distant regret. "We've decided to move in a different direction." She took consulting work where she could find it. Short-term contracts, temporary roles, work that required effort without recognition. The kind of work she once delegated without thought. At first, resentment simmered beneath every task. Then, slowly, something else replaced it, awareness. She noticed how people listened when she spoke without arrogance. How collaboration felt different without the need to dominate. How respect could be built quietly, without applause. One evening, while sorting through old emails, she came across a message she had ignored years ago. A startup founder thanking her for early advice she barely remembered giving. Back then, she had dismissed the company as small and unimportant. On impulse, she replied. They met the following week in a modest office, filled with second-hand furniture and restless energy. There was no grand title offered, no inflated salary, just an honest request for help. "We need guidance," the founder said, "not control." Samantha hesitated, then nodded. "I can do that." For the first time in months, the work felt real. Across the city, Nathan sat in his office, reviewing quarterly reports. Ardent Group continued to grow, expanding carefully, deliberately. He approved initiatives, rejected others, always with restraint. Power, to him, was a tool, not a weapon. A notification appeared on his screen. A brief update from legal. Samantha Carter has withdrawn all pending disputes. Nathan read it once, then closed the file. No satisfaction followed. Only closure. Weeks later, he attended a small industry panel. Sitting in the back, unnoticed as always, when a young consultant took the stage to speak about ethical leadership and rebuilding after failure. His attention sharpened. It was Samantha. She stood with none of her former sharpness, none of the polished superiority that once defined her. Instead, she spoke with clarity, humility, and hard-earned understanding. "I thought success was about being seen," she said. "I was wrong. It's about being solid, about knowing who you are when no one is clapping." The room listened. Nathan did not approach her afterward. He did not send a message. He did not need to. Their paths crossed once more, months later, in passing. A quiet restaurant. A shared glance. A nod of acknowledgement. Nothing more. That was enough. Samantha watched him leave, not with regret this time, but with respect. She finally understood the man she had once dismissed and the lesson she had paid dearly to learn. Some people build loudly, demanding recognition. Others build in silence. And when the moment comes, the difference between them decides everything.